So deck number 2. This is a very special one because this is the newest king. Originally, as I said, the first deck that would really become an established king, a king I thought would last, was my illusion deck. Recently, though, I realized a couple of things. The illusion deck was never going to get changed, and it wasn't that good. I mean, it was a good little tribal deck, don't get me wrong. It was fun. It's not an expensive tribal. I highly recommend if anyone wanted to see my deck list for the Reality and Flux. It was not crazy expensive, and you could probably even take some of the stuff out I had in it and just make it a pure illusion deck. Lord of the Unreal and Phantasmal Image is a super fun combo. But not a lot of room for growth and illusions. On top of that, this is being recorded about 2 weeks after New York Comic Con. For Comic Con 2015, my girlfriend, me, and 2 of our friends went as 3 of our friends went as planeswalkers to Comic Con, and I was Soren Markov because my girlfriend loves vampires, as I said, and she can't really be Soren. But we were talking about it late afterward, a few days ago. Actually, literally, it's a few days before I'm recording this. Part of the reason I'm recording this, we were talking, and I was like, I think of myself, if I was a planeswalker, I would be Ral Zarek. As you don't know, he's the Izzet planeswalker from Ravnica. I've always thought Ravnica was one of the coolest planes. All of the basic lands I have in my decks are foil Ravnica lands, Return to Ravnica lands, because Ravnica is so cool to me. I love Boros. I have a ring on my hand all the time that has the Boros colors, but I also think Izzet's so cool. All the guilds are really awesome. I love being a 2-color player when I can. 2-color decks are my favorite. And I just love Ravnica because it embodies that 2-color mindset. So, sorry. This cold is making me yawn a lot. I really liked Ral Zarek. I think if I was a planeswalker, I'd like to think that I'd be Ral Zarek because he's the cool. And lightning? I've always had a thing for lightning. I've always thought lightning was awesome. So I was thinking about it, and I'm like, what kings do I really love? And I love most of them, but my illusion deck was just like, what? That was never a big spark for me, and now it's more than ever as it's lost, as my other kings that I've designed since then have become so much more powerful. I have a good job that I can afford to kind of sink some money into Magic. I think it's time to take the illusion deck apart and put in a color combination I've always wanted to have succeed, and build a deck around Ral. And the name is not correct because I came up with an even better name. New King number 2 for the first time, and you guys aren't going to see this online because I'm trying to keep it a secret. I'm going to try to build this deck in secret. It's actually the most expensive deck of all the kings. It's going to cost a pretty penny to build, especially in all foil. But I wanted a good Ral deck, so this is Enlightening. Hope you get the pun. I thought it was kind of clever. It's better than Brainstorm, which is a card. I didn't want to steal a card name. I was like, I can't just name it after a card. So, this is Enlightening. It's a red, as you can see, a red, blue, white, 3-color lightning deck. Why is it 3-color? Well, because there are a few red, white, green cards that really fit in. I kind of always have ever since I heard about Jeskai seems really interesting to me too. But you need white for that. And there's a few white cards. Plus, I don't just want this to be a red-blue Izzet deck. Those are too common, and Luigi actually has his normal deck is an Izzet deck. I don't want just another Izzet deck. I want a lightning deck. And what is one of the cards that I run in another deck but Lightning Helix, red-white. So anyway, let's dig into Enlightening. Lands. This is where a lot of the price comes from, as you can see. Arid Mesa. I already have one for my red-white deck. I need another one. That's one of the few cards I still need to finish that deck in paper. But Arid Mesa, fetch land, red, white, flooded strand, fetch land, red, white, blue, and the one and only super price-o-matic Scalding Tarn, fetch for red, blue. Why'd I have to want a red-blue deck? The most expensive color combination there is. And then, of course, the shocks. Hollowed Fountain, Sacred Foundry, Steam Vents. And because it's a 3-color deck, but Khans of Tarkir has given us the answer there, Mystic Monastery, the 3-color, just comes in tapped, but it generates anything I could need, which is awesome. And then 2 mountains and 2 islands, because as you can see, the mana distribution, white is not the primary here, and everything I can do between my fetches and everything, I can always find white mana. 1 or 2 white, that's all I need for the whole game, and then I'm good. So let's dig into the actual cards. The reason I called this deck Enlightening. Electrolyze, one of the cards that fits the flavor. This deck is all about flavor. There is actually a definitively worse card in this deck because flavor makes it, because I want the flavor. Electrolyze, though, one of the best cards. Modern Masters reprint. Divide up a shock and draw a card. Just solid. Elixir of Immortality. This deck draws... when I finally can build this deck, I hope that this deck will draw even faster than my fastest drawing decks, which are currently my Temur deck and my white-blue Azorius, Absolute Judgment Azorius deck. Hopefully this deck will draw even faster. In that case, you need an Elixir of Immortality unless you're going to get an Eldrazi, and I'm not going to get an Eldrazi because you will see another card later, or one of my later decks will explain why I don't need more Eldrazi. So Elixir of Immortality, super solid card. I already have it in 1 or 2 of my decks. 2 of my decks. The 2 decks actually named that draw like crazy. This is so good to not draw yourself out. Is It Charm, again, fits the theme super well, but it's also super good. Non-creature spells, I have enough lightning and stuff to deal with creatures, so countering a spell for 2 is super useful early game. Shocking a creature, never terrible. Or Faithless Looting for 1 extra mana that you can't flash back. Super useful. This is a money card. I could cut this guy. And maybe some of you will tell me to cut him. I could. I probably should. But Jace the Mind Sculptor, the king of the Planeswalkers, the most... the most strong Planeswalker to ever... It's one of the strongest Planeswalkers ever. I couldn't miss the opportunity to put him in. And him and Ral do work together in the storyline a little bit near the end. Originally they're enemies, and then they kind of work together to stop Niv Mizzet from figuring about Planeswalkers. So I was like, you know what, fine. This is the money deck, so I can afford to put Jace in. And so he is. Jeskai Ascendancy. Again, this is just flood through your deck, draw what you need, and it kind of fits into a sort of prowess enhanced creatures theme. There aren't a lot of creatures in the deck, but they could use a buff. So I like Jeskai Ascendancy in this deck. It helps you dig, like you can turn non-draw cards into draw cards. Jeskai Charm, just like Is It Charm, but I would not run the other 2 charms of the double colors. This is supposed to be thematically a red-blue with some white deck. Jeskai Charm, put a creature on top of its owner's library. So good for breaking tempo. I do that all the time with my Azorius Charm, but they have to be attacking. In this case, they don't. 4 damage to a player, not really that useful, but 1/1 lifelink until end of turn is great if you have a couple of the creatures that I'm going to show later on the field. That's awesome. Lightning Bolt, gotta have it. I very rarely run 4 cards. This is actually like the only deck that has a 4 of a non-land card in it. As you can see, 2 cards from now. But I don't want 4. I try to balance my decks between really, really strong and being really, really fun. So because in my friends group, and Luigi's decks are usually seen as too good. They're just so strong. And he usually just wins, and that's not that fun. I want me and my friends to have good back and forth. So I like to spread it out a little bit, and like that. Why Jace is in here? Jace is an amazing card, yeah, but he doesn't really fit the theme. But I only have 1 of him, so there's no like guaranteed drawing Jace. So I like to balance fun and quality. So 3 lightning bolts, 3 lightning helixes. Like I said, that card is so good. 3 damage, 3 life. 4 ponders. Having 3 ponders in my Azurius deck. Ponder is just too good. I know it's not modern legal, but it's so good. I mean, when I'm not playing like Luigi, where I'm running like Gutter Snipe, Serum Visions, Faithless Living, dig. When I'm not super digging, I feel like this is reasonable dig. And the big man himself, Ral. He's not amazing, but he's got a built-in lightning bolt. And I love flipping coins. If I had more space in this deck, I would put Stitch in Time in. I love Stitch in Time. That's a card that I ran a ton of a few years ago. It's like his ultimate, but you do it once. Flip a coin. If you win, gain a turn, but it's 3 mana. So I always liked Stitch in Time. That's kind of a callback to that, but I can't fit it in the deck. And then 3 Remands, the best counter. I mean, yeah, it doesn't hard counter a spell, but you break tempo and increase your own tempo. That's so much more valuable to me than putting a 1 card in the graveyard like a counter spell would. And Mana Drain is way too good. Now we move on to the handful of creatures in this deck that I really like. Lightning Angel. This is where flavor trumps ability. In Khans of Tarkir, they printed a card that costs 1 less, Mantis Rider, and has 1 less toughness. This I like Lightning Angel more. Partially because the art's super cool. Partially because it's cheaper. Partially because of the flavor. Lightning Angel. I love angels. My favorite card in the entire game is Gisela. And Avacyn is up there too. I love angel cards. And Lightning Angel is an angel. It's got lightning. It costs 1 more. And it's got 1 toughness, so it's out of most burn range. So I think it's worth it for the flavor and for the fun. Melik Izzet Paragon. Not an amazing card, but the fact that I can copy spells when there's so many spells on top of my library is amazing. And there's only 1, and I don't get to... It's just too cool to not run. 4 Monastery Swiftspears. This is a concession to pure ability. This card is way too good. Monastery Swiftspear is the best 1-drop creature printed in red possibly ever. It's too good to not run. And 4 of them, they're always useful, especially when I have things like Ponder in my hand. Play 1 Ponder. Turn 2, play a Monastery Turn 1, Monastery Swiftspear, swing for 1. Turn 2, Lightning Helix. 5 damage, gain 3 life. Too strong. This is a sort of where the original idea of making it 3-color came from. Originally, this deck was just red-blue Ral. And then I saw Narset Enlightened Master. Considering that there are 14 creatures in this deck and 26 spells, the fact that when she attacks, I can play up to 4 non-creature cards for free. The fact that a Planeswalker is free. That means an artifact is free. An enchantment is free. And then if I exile a few creatures, who cares? It's not the end of the world. And let's say I play her, Ponder. Okay. Let's make sure there are 3 non-creatures on top. Or at least 2 non-creatures on top. Play them for free. Great. She's super fun. I wish she was a little stronger, but if you have something like Jeskai Ascendancy out, she gets a nice little buff. I think it's fun. Niv Mizzet the Firemind, kind of as a counter to Ral. Have his boss in the deck. I'm still unsure if I want Firemind or Draco Genius. Draco Genius does less consistent damage, but has more space for damage. But I can understand why Firemind is technically better, especially in a deck like this. In my Temur deck that Draco Genius is in, I can pump mana into him a lot more to deal damage and draw cards, and that's more useful in that deck. But I think in this deck where mana is less plentiful, I have 6 fetch lands. That means in total I can have 14 mana tops in a game. Considering I can have 6 fetch land, I have 14 mana. This is every turn I deal 1 damage to something, and I can draw another card, which is always good. And Soulfire Grandmaster, considering how much burn I have, the fact that I can give my spells lifelink, and I can bounce them back to my hand late game when I have mana is just way too strong. This card is way too good. It's the most expensive creature for a reason. So let me know what you think, because this deck is not going to get built for a while, obviously, because of price. And I want to hear your thoughts. Maybe there's cards I've missed. Maybe there's ways I can make Enlightening better. Maybe I should take it back to 2 colors. Maybe I should cut Monasteries for Spear. Maybe I should not go with the Narset thing. I don't know, but I want it to be a fun... I really want to have a red, white, and blue deck. It's just too fun. So I think I'm going to keep it like this as is. And from what I've seen, it seems fine so far. I've done test hands, basically. This is the best you can do. So let me know what you think, though. And we have enough time, I think, for one more king for today. I mentioned, again, going in. God, it's so cold. I need to go get warm. I had 2 conspiracy-focused decks, and I had Everyone's Best Friend. And when I took that apart, I still wanted to have a green-white deck, because green-white is one of the best 2-color combos, in my opinion. There's so many amazing things you can do with a green-white deck. I've had a green-white humans deck. You might have seen it on Magic Monday, actually, a while ago. Green-white humans. Just green-white has infinite possibilities. I decided, but I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and then they showed off the Origins cards, because you got to think, I was doing this at the end of the summer when Origins came out, and I saw Starfield of Nyx, and I thought, I have to make an enchantment green-white deck. So I made Magic Made Real. Going through the lands really quick, back to a 2-color, so we have our 2 converter lands, we have our 2 fetch lands, 3 shock lands, and the 3, whatever you want to call them, 3 stay untapped if there's one of the I don't know. And 5 plains and 5 forests, because as you can see, this is a very even split deck in terms of colors. As I said, though, it is an enchantment deck. So let's start going through some of these enchantments that I have. Collective Blessing. Okay, let's start off with the king of the deck, Starfield of Nyx. This card is ridiculous and way too good in my mind. In a deck where over half of the deck, as you can see, is enchantments. And then basically every creature is an enchantment because they are all from the Theros cycle. So basically everything in the deck that's not a land, except for a few exceptions, is an enchantment. So it's really easy to proc the second thing of Starfield of Nyx, where if you control 5 or more enchantments total, including itself, every enchantment that's not an aura, besides the Starfield, becomes a creature with base power and toughness equal to its mana cost. That's amazing. That's so strong. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you return an enchantment from your graveyard to the battlefield. For free, recover an enchantment from your graveyard. And if it's a creature burn, oh, I got it back. And it doesn't even turn itself into a creature. Ridiculous. So let's go through what I crafted to build around Starfield. There's only 3 of them, because I feel like 4 is actually kind of unnecessary. Collective Blessing. Look at this. Think about it with Starfield of Nyx. 6 mana cost. Pricey, sure, but with some ramp, who cares? Creatures you control get +3/+3, including enchantments that have been turned into creatures. This becomes think about it this way. This is a base +3/+3. Starfield of Nyx costs 5. This costs 6. Turn 5, play Starfield of Nyx. Turn 6, play this. It is a 9/9 that buffs all of your other creatures +3/+3. If you look at it with Starfield of Nyx, it is insanely good. Way too good. And because it costs more, and there's only 1, you're basically never going to have this on the field without Starfield. And even if you do, you'll see a little later why the token generation and other creatures I do have benefit from it greatly anyway. Enchantress's Presence, one of the best card draw. Whenever you cast an enchantment, draw a card. Except for really late game, you don't want to do that. You want to do that, I mean. And it costs 3. It becomes a 3/3 creature. Absolutely. Font of Fertility. This is one of I have this, which is tap 2, sacrifice it, look for a basic land, put it on the battlefield and shuffle, and Font of Vigor, which is sacrifice it to gain 7 life. Both of these you can bring back every turn with Starfield of Nyx and keep sacking. Let's say I need more lands up. Keeps digging for basics. Keep paying for life. They're not amazing, but the fact that you can sacrifice them repeatedly with Starfield of Nyx makes them crazy strong in my mind. Ghostly Prison. Creatures can't attack you unless they pay 2 mana for each creature. This is just the ultimate field control for an enchantment deck. It's not locked down a specific creature. It's say you cannot attack me with a lot of stuff. And this deck excels at dealing with individual threats. Because of something like Oblivion Ring, I skipped a little, but I have 3 Oblivion Rings. If you have a single threat, boom, it's gone. And I don't have to worry about it. The only sorcery, the only thing that's not a permanent in this deck, actually, the only non-permanent in this deck, Kruphix's Insight. Reveal the top 6 cards. Put up to 3 enchantments into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. If it's not an enchantment, I probably don't care about it. There's only lands and extra enchantments to put into the graveyard. And what I could do is, let's say I reveal the top 6 cards. There's 2 lands, a Starfield of Nyx. Oh, wait, no, you can't do that. Never mind. Put 3 enchantments into your hand. Starfield, let's say you find a Starfield of Nyx, a Collective Blessing, Enchantress's Presence. Who cares about the rest of the stuff you're putting in the graveyard? It's fine. And if you draw more than 3 enchantments, you just dump them all into your graveyard and bring it back with a Starfield of Nyx. You're almost guaranteed to find one with the Kruphix's Insight. Mirari's Wake. Creatures you control get +1/+1. It costs 5. Whenever you tap a land for mana, and 1 mana to your mana pool of any type that land could produce. Or produced. All these multi-lands, double your mana of any color. Crazy mana production. And it is, if a Starfield of Nyx is on the field, it's a 6/6 that gives all your creatures +1/+1. Again, always thinking about these enchantments with Starfield of Nyx in mind. Sigil of the Empty Throne. Whenever you cast an enchantment, get a 4/4 angel. Even if you can't get Starfield of Nyx out, everything in this deck counts as an enchantment, so why not play it and get an angel token? Collective Blessing. Oh, I don't have Starfield of Nyx, so it's not a creature, or I don't have enough enchantments out. It's not a creature, but these are generating 7/7 angels. So much synergy. Sterling Grove, one of the best enchantments ever, and the only really, really old card in this deck, besides Enchantress's Presence. All enchantments other than it have Shroud. I have nothing that targets my own enchantments, so why do I care about targeting them? And I can tap one to sacrifice it to put an enchantment card on top of my library. That is so much dig. And you got to think again, with Starfield of Nyx on the field, and you have 2 of these. Sack. What do I want? Put it on top. Draw a card off of Enchantress's Presence, maybe. Next turn, bring Sterling Grove back from the graveyard. Just constant digging. And True Conviction is kind of the flip side of Collective Blessing. Creatures you control have Double Strike and Lifelink. If you have Starfield of Nyx on the field, this is a 6/6 Double Strike Lifelink that gives all your other creatures Double Strike Lifelink. Crazy. That's the best I can say. It's just nuts. And then we move into the creatures. The one of 3 creatures that are not enchantments. A Johnny's Chosen. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, including from the graveyard, you get a 2/2 cat token. It's none of my enchantments or auras. But you just generate 2/2 cats. Cat, constantly. Starfield of Nyx, that's a cat every turn and an enchantment back onto the field. Too easy. Yavimaya Enchantress, gain it's +1/+1 for every enchantment on the battlefield, including enchantment creatures. It's like guaranteed to be a 4/4 or higher when you play it. Keep playing enchantments, it keeps getting bigger. Except for a field wipe, it's not going to get tiny. And the other key to the deck from Origins as well, Herald of the Pantheon. Enchantments cost 1 less, and you gain a life whenever you cast an enchantment. Most of these enchantments, as you can see, only have 1, 2, or 3 colorless. There's 4 on Starfield. That is so much. All these creatures, basically everything in this deck costs 1 less, unless it already cost 1 or 2. It costs 1 less. How can you argue with that? And you gain life off of playing them. It's so much synergy. Enchantment creatures, though, Archetype of Courage. Look at this. Turn 2, Herald of the Pantheon. Turn 3, Archetype of Courage and Nyxborn Shieldmate. The 1-drop enchantment creature, 1/2. This counts as an aura if I want to cast it for its bestow cost. But why would I? Play it for 1 when you have Enchantress's Presence. Herald of the Pantheon, actually. Turn 2, Herald of the Pantheon. Turn 3, Enchantress's Presence, Nyxborn Shieldmate. You have 2 enchantments on the field for Starfield of Nyx, and you draw a card. And you have a 1/2 blocker. Why not? Courser of Kruphix, one of the strongest enchantment creatures to come out of Theros. Play with the top card of your library revealed. If it's a land, you can play it, and you gain life whenever you play a land. It helps accelerate, and it provides more little drops of life, just like the Herald of the Pantheon does. Eidolon of Blossoms. It's a creature version of Enchantress's Presence that draws a card when you play it, and draws cards for more enchantments, and it's a 2/2 creature already, so you have a blocker backup if you need it. Again, just why not run it? Plus, the other thing you got to think about with Starfield of Nyx is it takes all of your creatures that are enchantments and overwrites their power and toughness with their mana cost. Their mana cost becomes their new power and toughness. So you gotta, in most cases, that's great. Archetype of Courage. It's a 2/2, gives everything first strike, takes away first strike for 3. If you have Starfield of Nyx, procced, it's a 3/3, give everything first strike and take away first strike. Courser of Kruphix, 2/4 becomes 3/3. Kinda not great there, but still not bad. Eidolon of Blossoms, 4/4, draw a card when it enters, and draw a card every time you play an enchantment. Nyxborn Shieldmate, unfortunately, does lose a toughness, but who cares? It's a 1-drop enchantment. And all these other creatures become giant enchantment things, and you got to think also, all these buffs, and I just, that's basically the deck. I just love this deck. This deck is one of the ones I'm going to build next. Number 1 and number 3, Your Soul is Mine and Magic Made Real, are both going to be decks that I build as soon as I have the money together. They are both not super expensive and have amazing synergy, and I can't wait to try them in paper, as you guys have seen them online, but I do not. I own maybe a quarter of this and a third of Your Soul is Mine in paper so far. I'm just going to go through and buy up the rest on like my next big paycheck from work, because I can do that now. It's a miracle. I have money. Sort of. But anyway, I think that is long enough for me rambling on. Let me know if you guys would like me to do episodes showcasing the rest of the kings. I would love to, but I don't want to bore everyone to death. We still have a lot more to go. It would take probably, without story time, I could probably get it done in about 2 more episodes, but I would love some feedback. I would love feedback on the deck constructions themselves, on how the decks are built, but feedback on this style, feedback in general. It's always appreciated. My name is Timpedia, though. Hope you guys enjoyed this Magic Monday. Next week, we'll probably be back with another set of matches, but until then, my name is Timpedia, and I will catch you guys later.